Welcome back to the lunch table, food for thought. I'm Nico Blitz. Make sure you hit that subscribe button at the bottom left-hand corner, and also press that notification bell so you can, get notified whenever we post a new interview. Let me build up my next guest in just a second and see how we got to this point, right?
All right.
So in 2011, 2012, I graduated from high school, and I used to go to this boba shop just down the street on Geneva, and I met this chick. Her name's Connie Chen. Now, every time I went to this boba spot, she already knew what I wanted. It was like a kumquat peach tea with boba in it.
Kumquat. That's a good order.
Well, because she introduced me to it, right? And, she was just a really cool person. I was nice to meet you and all that. A couple years later, she hits me up. She's like, hey, I'm actually helping out with this music video for this rapper out here in the Bay. I was like, all right, bet. So then she sent me his music, and I immediately got encapsulated by the Asian stereotypes that were thrown in the music, and it was hilarious up until I listened to his album Simmering, and I was like, wow, this guy can really fucking rap his ass off while also tackling every single Asian stereotype. Shout out to Majin Vegeta, shout out to Hamtaro and all that shit. It was crazy. My next guest, Chow Mane. What's poppin', man?
How you doing, Nico? Thanks for having me on today.
You gotta speak into the mic so people can
bad,
hear your voice, bro.
My bad. I'm not used to this whole setup that you got going on. But thanks for having me on the show today. It's an honor to be here.
I've been hyping up your name to a lot of people over here in LA for the past couple of weeks, and literally the first way they react is just they laugh because they're you're really interviewing someone named Chow Mane.
That's the name, bro. I mean, bro, I when I was starting, I was considering just going with Chow, but I was like, it's twofold, right? So the name Chow is the nickname that I used to be called by my grandma. My real name's Charles. Okay. So it's when she said Charles, it's like Chow with a little accent.
Oh, okay.
So that's the first part. The second part is, when I was first getting ready my first tape, my first EP, Mooncakes, that concept was trying to go through the Asian American experience and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So I figured the name Chow Mane was the dish Chow Mane itself is a very Chinese American dish. It's not
not full on Chinese.
I mean, yeah, there's variations of fried noodles and whatnot in China, but the idea of what Americans think of as chow mein, that version that you get at Panda Express, that's very American.
Yeah.
So it's homegrown, it's not fully Asian, it's not fully American, but it's somewhere in the middle, So that's also where the name came from. And third, I knew that shit would
You knew that shit would pop. Because I was like, bro, you got a dope ass marketing plan.
All right, thank you, bro.
But that's a really interesting take because I don't think people think that too deep into their their rap names anymore. Because you got the Lils and the Youngs, and it's if it works for them, that's cool.
Yeah,
but it's to hear that you're kind of a mixture between, you're literally Asian American, and that's literally what chow mein is. It's
exactly.
Asian American food.
Right. That's that's what started it all.
Yo, that's amazing, man.
Yeah,
and
bro.
I'm also happy about this too because you're also from the Bay.
Yeah, of course.
Were you San Jose raised or Salinas?
Well, both Salinas and San Jose.
Okay.
So I was born in Monterey, and I grew up in Salinas. And then my parents split up when I was little. And my dad's side of the family, they mostly lived in San Jose. So I was going back and forth constantly. But that's so I can.
I don't think people realize how far of a distance it is between San Jose and Salinas.
It's 60 miles, maybe an hour drive.
Yeah.
But it was cool because it's two totally different cultures. Salinas was I was one of very few Asian kids there. The population I think was very white, Mexican and Filipino.
Mm-hmm.
And for a Chinese kid, there were maybe in my class maybe 2 or 3 of us. And then San Jose was the opposite, kind of where I saw a lot of Asian kids.
There's hella Asians.
Yeah, and I came up in East Side San Jose. That's where my dad's family lived. So my dad, they're originally from Vietnam, but they're blood Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
But the area was very Vietnamese that we kind of grew up in. But at the same time, it was close enough to all these different hubs. I don't know how familiar you are with San Jose.
So the only thing I know about San Jose is because my homie used to go to San Jose State.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember being smack in the middle of San Jose State.
Yeah,
you got one side that's just hella nice, then you got the other side that's completely ghetto. I'm just why is this split by the college?
It's pretty big, bro. The whole city is sectioned off into like these very these areas where you got a lot of different cultures going on. So like I think East Side there's a lot of Vietnamese and there's a lot of Mexican folks, and then of course you got the cuisines, you got like a lot of stores that are like resembling the cultures. And then in other parts, it's like very like more like Chinese, like Taiwanese, and those were more. I don't even know how to describe it, bro. It's just different, though. You step in and you can just feel like the culture is just a little different. But in the end, it's all the same city, and it's all everyone's.
Well, and also, from like the outside looking in, I think a misconception is that like all the Asians they just look alike.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? From like the outside looking in,
true,
but it's
true.
just like that's why I feel like, oh, Ange, can you get our guest a little bit more water, please?
Oh, thank you.
But
Appreciate it.
It's funny because like in a couple of your songs, I think it was even I need to pull it up,
That's
bro,
all good.
because I don't want. I think it was She Glowing, and then it first
yeah.
starts off like she's Taiwanese, but she drink like she Korean.
Yeah.
And I, you know what I mean? Like I just laugh at those things because it's like we know, we know, and like I think it's very bold of you to want to tackle these Asian stereotypes in your music because I think that's what. It's kind of like satire in a sense.
Kind of. I mean, it's like I think one perspective is it's like you're going in at these stereotypes. The other one is also just like I think even just talking about it and talking about these things that I think people within the culture know about and bringing it to light and having people outside of the culture like listen to it and like get exposed to it. It kind of like what's it called?
Awareness?
Validates it a little bit, and it's like it's
you.
not such a random ass thing. It's like when I dropped the ABG music video, right, like 2 years ago, I don't remember when I dropped that video, right, like people who knew they knew, but then like people who had no exposure, like my manager Anthony, he was like I don't know why, but he like threw it at I forget, some like normal like hip hop not niche
Blogs and all that.
blogs and whatnot, and the commenters were, mostly like, normal white kids.
Like they
and
didn't
whatnot.
get it.
They're just like, what is this, bro? Like,
Yeah.
because that culture is like, it's very big in probably California. I don't know, probably
Huge,
LA too.
bro.
Definitely San Jose, the Bay Area is big.
Yeah.
I would imagine LA is pretty huge too, and other like, I know Houston,
Honestly
Dallas.
not because like I have a lot of people who I work with who are in LA. Like shout out to Bootleg Kev, he's from Arizona, but he moved out here and. He was asking me at one point, like, Nico, like, what type of girl? He was like, I know you have a girlfriend, but, like, what type of girls are you into? And I was like, to be honest, I'm actually into, like, ABGs. And he was just like, what's an ABG? And I was like, it's an Asian baby girl. And he was like, what the hell is an Asian baby girl? And I'm just like...
And, I mean, you first saw that term, or at least me, like, I remember that term from back in, like, I don't know, 07, 08, like on AIM days,
Super old,
back
bro.
When, and the definition was like a little, I feel like it's evolved over time. The core has been kind of the same, but like back then it was like, the Asian girls who also, wore a lot of eyeliner and whatnot. They hung out with like the Asian gangsters and shit around like San Jose and like.
With all the designer bags and whatnot.
With all the designer bags. But now I feel like even now in the last few years, it's been like a lot more mainstream. It's not like such a subculture even within the Asian community. Like it's a lot bigger within that too, just because like I think just the influence from that generation, like 10, 12 years ago has like impacted the way that I think Asian American youth is like kind of forming their identity.
Yeah, I think so. And, I think that's also like a good and a bad thing because we have a talk about identity on the lunch table so much. It's kind of like how even like in the African American community, you have like dark skin and like light skinned people, right? And so even for like the Asian communities, you know what I mean? Like I'm Filipino, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit darker, and I've always felt like, damn, am I like Asian enough? Because like I'm a little bit more like of a darker complexion, and even in like the Philippines, like they got this weird ass like skin cream that makes your skin a little bit lighter, and I'm just like, what the hell?
I mean, you know Ruby Ibarra?
Yeah. Shout out Ruby.
She was shout out to Ruby. I mean, she talks about that on some of her songs too. She's talking about like when she was little or whatnot, and her mom's like telling her she got to put on the cream and whatnot. It's
because
like,
it makes you look more beautiful.
Yeah, it's supposed to make you like more beautiful, but it's like it's not. That's such a notion from Western countries, like kind of, I don't know. It's very interesting how it comes about because it's like so prominent within like a lot of Asian countries as well. Like this idea of like lighter skin and whatnot. And part of it is like historical with like people who are laborers and whatnot were supposed to be like not as rich, so not desirable, but it's at the same time also Western influence. Like at some point, how much influence did European countries reflecting their beauty standards on Asian countries as well? How much does that influence the culture? And I don't know, bro. It's a very very
touchy,
bizarre time that. Not time aspect of the culture.
Well, even have you watched Get Out?
Get Out, yeah.
So even in Get Out, there was just like one Asian guy smack in the middle of like all these white people, and then people were asking me like, why do you think that was an occurrence? And I was like, because Asian people naturally, like, we just kind of like to be modest and like get out of the way from like all the trauma.
It's a very like Confucian like philosophy.
Yeah,
it's like ingrained in you. I was talking to my boy about this. It's like you're kind of when you look at a lot of Asian cultures, it's very opposite from kind of Western standards of like masculinity. Like I think in America it's very you're encouraged to be like proud, like have bravado, like be like an alpha male and whatnot. And if you do that shit in like China or Japan, it's like almost looked down upon to like stand out like that. Like you want to be modest as possible. Like even if you're like, I don't know if you've seen like Terrace House, right? Bro,
it is so boring. It's boring.
Bro, but like the people, like some of the dudes who've done like crazy, like pro surfing, pro snowboarding and whatnot, they're like hella humble. They just like downplay everything, and that's just like very ingrained in the culture. It's like you don't show that stuff off because it's like unappealing.
Well, that's why even like when we see anime, right? And I'm just gonna keep it in the Dragon Ball Z references because you reference that so much in your music. But even like Goku, right? Like Goku, right? He never says he's strong.
Right.
He just so happens to be strong whenever he's put into a ring, and it's like it's not one of those things that he wants to put out there, but it's like you know something about yourself that you don't necessarily need to like brag to the world.
Yeah, it's a very interesting but that comes along with just how even in America or Western countries, non-Asian countries, like first, second generation kids with parents who do come from those countries, even though you're coming up in a society that is a lot more westernized, like your upbringing is still instilling a lot of those values. And that's something that I think like eventually fully might just dissipate with a lot of generations. Like if you look at a lot of like Japanese people who came from way back when, who like served during World War II, like in the internment, or even like Chinese people who like have been here since like the 1800s and whatnot. A lot of it is like the habits and the culture for these people are like completely assimilated, completely American now.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's
it's different trying to translate, like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like habits from other countries and trying to translate them over here, because for instance my girl's mom was in Japan last year, and she went to every single restaurant she could, and then she kept on thinking to herself like, why aren't they serving me napkins? Right? And I was like, and then the reasoning behind that was obviously because of like the ecosystem over there. They don't want to like continue like making waste with napkins, so everybody has to take handkerchiefs with them, right?
Interesting, man. Yeah.
And the one that blew my mind was that when you're in Japan, nobody gives direct eye contact.
Oh shit!
At all.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and it's because like I guess when you give direct eye contact, it's a sign of like confrontation. Oh. And in Japan, that's kind of like disrespectful to like look to each other. And I'm just like, but that's like, to me, that's literally something that I feel like is it's a boundary between human beings, because we have that communication barrier. So it makes me think about like, is there like, there must be like a huge communication barrier like in Japan, like in some, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think that just goes for like cultures around the world. Like there's different things that are, maybe taboo in one culture, or maybe, just, it's like Chinese people at like the buffet, bro. There's like there's no, what's it called? Personal space. Like people just like get right behind you, or like bro, my girl works at a doctor's office out in Oakland, Chinatown, right?
Okay.
And most of the patients are all Chinese, but occasionally there will be like a white patient or something, and when they're waiting in line to get seen, and she's like the receptionist, the Chinese people just like go like right behind him or like right behind people, like looking over shoulders, like literally just right up in you, and it's like because it's just like it's normalized, bro. Like like in that culture, it's just not a thing really to like have like a few feet of like space between people, you know. So it's like.
Well, I mean, also I can only imagine like in actual China, like how much there isn't any space to actually move because there's just so many people there. So I mean, it's to me it kind of sounds like a cultural thing that's like forced upon them because there's so many people. I guess like
that's probably like one of the roots. I mean, I can't say I can't.
I mean, yeah, I could be totally wrong. Like, don't take my word for it. That's just an educated guess.
Right, yeah.
So Chow Mane, man.
Yeah, bro.
Growing up, you know, in a family where you have to go between like San Jose and Salinas, like, was that difficult for you?
Not really, man. I mean, I think it was kind of cool in that just kind of seeing a lot of different. I mean, I guess getting exposed to different cultures and whatnot. Cause like when I went to school in Salinas, right? And you know, I think schools where you learn a lot of like learn a lot about culture, about like, you know, society around you, how different people act and whatnot. But then, you know, at the same time, my family and my dad's side especially, because they all, you know, immigrated together as refugees from Vietnam. They were like very close and very big on family, or they are very big on family, you know. So like I think all the time I usually spent with them, like my dad lived in the same house as my grandma and my grandpa, my uncle, my aunt, my niece, my cousins.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like very wholesome, you know.
Yeah.
And my mom's on the other hand, she came from Shanghai by herself, and so like everyone else in her family's in like China still.
Yeah.
So it was definitely. I think it kind of opened my eyes and let me step into like these many different experiences, which eventually shaped, you know, my upbringing and, you know, kind of my concepts of how I see culture and whatnot. Yeah.
Well, you know, based off your music, it sounds like you're extremely knowledgeable about like your parents' past and like what they had to go through. I mean, that's at least what it seems like. And, you know, just even like based on conversation too, like that we're having right now, it just sounds like you've dove into history.
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, like it wasn't something that was big for me until probably like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago was when I started like thinking like, you know, see, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, being like one of the only Asian, one of the only like Chinese kids in Salinas, I always felt like I wanted to like fit in more with like all the other kids, with all, you know, most of my classmates were all like white and Mexican. I didn't have like really any Chinese kids growing up until Chinese friends growing up until like I think like high school probably was like my first exposure. So, you know, like people, you know, back when you're kids, you know, kids like they like roast you for like your food and whatnot, and like, you know, chinky eyes or whatever. But I mean, so when I was a kid, I always wanted to like, you know, kind of shed that and kind of like, you know, fit in with everybody else, not like stand out so much. But I think as I got older, and especially as I got like more appreciative of like, you know, how, especially my dad's side, my grandparents, they're like very traditional. They still do, you know, going to the temples, you know, having a lot of like ceremonies, like we're blessing the house every time we move into a new place, like all this stuff. It got me like really interested in, because like this stuff is like stuff that I've been wanting to learn about, and I can't really find anything about it online either. Like these are very like
crazy, man. Yeah.
And I don't even think it's like that niche, you know. But it's just like there's probably maybe not enough interest. I don't know. Anyway, but when I started getting more into this stuff, I started like you know, I basically I sat down with like my aunt and I was just asking about the story, and I like learned about all the stuff in our family past, because I feel like that's like important to kind of understand where you come from, especially for me with the privilege of having my grandparents, you know, still like still out there, and like you know, and knowing where they came from versus, you know, I know a lot of people have experiences where like you kind of lose your past, you kind of lose your history, and then you kind of have no choice but to fully, I guess, be on your own and be someone a full individual. Versus me, I feel like I can be a part of like this bigger thing, which is the family, and you know, just learning about the history is very
it's intriguing.
It's very exactly. It's crazy.
It kind of tells you a lot about yourself.
Stories that like you won't that no one else can know about, or that nobody else would know about until you tell the stories, right? So it's like yeah,
Well, you know, what,
you
you
want to
know, like
preserve it.
one of the craziest stories that my dad had told me, right? Because I had never met my grandfather before. You know, he passed away before,
Yeah.
I was born. And my dad would tell me that, like, hey, did you know that your grandfather used to actually write the speeches for the president in the Philippines?
Oh, shit.
And I was like,
That's
so
crazy.
you're telling me my grandfather essentially liked to talk
Yeah.
and he liked to write.
Dude,
And
you
so
got
when
that
I'm
down.
born, I have this like innate feeling of
Yeah,
I
you
want to
got this
make
trait in
talking
you.
a career.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's just like little facts like that kind of like put everything into perspective.
That's
Like,
so
you know what I
interesting,
mean?
bro.
Like
Yeah.
I literally have a lineage of people who just enjoy to talk.
Right,
I
right,
remember
right.
going to Costco, bro. And every time I would go to Costco with my dad would just be talking his ass off to the most random people, and I'd be
That's
like,
crazy.
"Yo, like,
Yeah, I mean, those are the things that make you like wonder, like how much of your personality is like genetic and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's real interesting.
super interesting stuff, man." So then, did you have? I mean, like, did you have somebody who was like into rap in your family, or
Yeah,
like,
bro, my uncle was hella into hip hop. And my dad and my uncle were very very musical people. Just when they came to America, they were in high school, so they went to I think Seaside High. My dad he came here like his junior year or something, and it's an interesting like journey to get here because like since by the time they like left Vietnam, they spent like 2 or 3 years on like Bidong Island, which is like this refugee island for like. Well, basically, when they try to leave Vietnam, they went on a boat, right?
Yeah.
The boat got attacked by pirates, and so like they were like left for dead on like
what
basically
the
on the
hell?
boat, and the Red Cross found them, and this was like very common around the time, like Malaysian pirates. There were a lot of pirates at the time
Yeah.
attacking like refugee ships because they knew like everyone was bringing all their gold, like whatever they had with them, and then Red Cross was also patrolling. They had helicopters patrolling the seas and whatnot. Anyway, they took them. They stayed on this island. For like 2 or 3 years, where they just like kind of kicked it. And, well, I shouldn't say that. It was a lot.
They just kicked it.
It was a lot worse than that, But they were chilling on this island. But by the time they got here, they were a little older than everyone else. So I mean, they came to the equivalent of like 10th or 11th grade, and so they were like they had a chance, I think, get more immersed in like the culture and whatnot. My uncle was a little younger, so I think he got a lot. He was probably coming up like around the time of. They were both really into like I don't know if you remember like freestyle music like Stevie V and they're like
Damn, bro, that's so
they're hella
old.
into freestyle. They're really into like a lot of 80s pop, and my uncle in particular, I don't know how this happened actually. Now I'm thinking about it because this stuff didn't come out till the 90s, and he was for sure out of school by then.
Yeah.
But he had a bunch of like Snoop and Too Short CDs. Like he was
That's
listening to a lot of
crazy.
G-Funk stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that probably came from just like he had a lot of friends. My uncle was like a very like extroverted guy, like so he probably, came up with that. But anyway, he used to pick me up from school. My parents were working, and that's what he would play in the car. So that was like kind of my first exposure to the genre. But just music in general has just always been big. Just in my family. Just
Yeah. It sounds like you got acclimated to Too Short like very early, man. Because my parents would not play any hip hop.
Yeah.
I would just have to like dig for hip hop like
Yeah.
through my friends. Like, oh, who's this? And
Yeah.
that's how I got exposed to like the E40s and the Mac Dre's of the world.
Yeah. I mean, it was honestly it was kind of random that how it happened. But I think even if it like. Even though I came up, I think listening to a lot of it, I didn't get inspired to start making my own music until like probably I was like middle school. Middle school. When
Damn, bro.
when I was heavy on the Dat Piff wave, and I was
I saw that. We would download like all the mixtapes.
Yeah, I would download all the mixtapes. I remember like Wayne, of course, the No Ceilings tape.
All the dedications were on
all
there.
the dedications. I remember listening to Fab, There's No Competition, like those tapes.
Yeah.
Like for me, when I was like in middle school, when I was like first starting out trying to rap, I was like heavy onto like punchlines and shit, cause like that was what I liked.
Damn, bro. So that makes perfect sense now.
Right. So like I came up like listening to like. Yeah, basically like Wayne, Fab, Los, like all the punchline rappers,
Yeah, bro. I mean, like,
So-
and the reason why it makes perfect sense is because it just seems like you have punchline after punchline in your raps, bro. And you just spilled the water.
I just spilled the water, dog. Too much water on me.
And to me, like, what's interesting about like your music in particular is that you're so bold with the punchlines, and I think because you're so bold with it allows you to use words that I don't normally hear in songs anymore, I don't know if you get that a lot.
Which
I mean,
words?
like, shit, man. You said something like, she's Vietnamese and drinking VSOP. And I'm just like, this fool really ran Vietnamese with VSOP.
Yo, that's facts though.
I was like, what?
All my Viet homies just think nothing but VSOP, bro.
Yeah, and it's like those two words I never hear like ever used in a rhyme, like even on their own entities, or like you know, I even mentioned earlier you were rhyming like you said something like she got balls in her mouth looking like Hamtaro. I'm just like, what the fuck is this fool saying right now? But it makes sense.
To be fair though, She Glowing, that song in particular was very like
provocative.
The way that song came about actually was I made it during the days of the Mooncakes era, so back in 2017, and it was actually just kind of shelved because I already had ABG on there. I didn't want another song like it on the same project, and you know the concept of the Mooncakes project was like very Asian American. And with Simmering, I didn't want to, you know, box myself into that topic, like, again, for another project. So Simmering, I was more, like, trying to label it as kind of like a 3-course meal because I had a lot of, like, different sounds going on. You know, I'm heavy into food, if you didn't know that.
Oh, no, so, I see your Instagram story, bro. You be cooking. I'm just like, damn, bro, this shit looks good right now.
I'm heavy into food, you know. So, like, Simmering, I knew I had some, like, I had some more, like, you know, upbeat, melodic stuff. I had some more like laid back stuff, and I had stuff like She Glowing and stuff like actually She Glowing was the one song, I think the only song on there that was supposed to be like Asian centric on it, because that to me was like a direct follow up for people who were fans of Mooncakes and who were fans of the song ABG in particular, because of how successful that song went. Honestly, I didn't expect that shit at all. Like but it made sense, so I was like, you know, I have the song shelved, I'm gonna bring it out, I'll polish it up, and then put it on the project and just have like a kind of follow up.
Yeah. Well, you know, the reason why I feel like it, you know, She Glowing and, you know, ABG works so well is, I mean, again, the fact that like it tackles like an Asian stereotype head on. I remember listening to if you ever heard of Flannel Albert. So you know, he's from New York and he has this song called Asian Glow. Oh, and you know, for me, I was just like, I don't know. I haven't heard this song before, but I'm just gonna click on it because I have an idea of like what it's about. And you know, right now we're seeing this wave in which a lot of the Spanish music is really popping off. So you know, we have a song like Uno by AMG BJ, or like Go Loco. You know what I mean? Like the shit slap. And to me, it's just like, wow, like you have all these people like really putting forth these stereotypes head on and twisting it in a fun way that I guess makes it more contemporary and acceptable.
Right. It's like not only stereotypes. To me, it's like even just culture in general. Like it's stuff that I think as I said, you know, we're kind of validating it by you know, making it accessible to the mainstream, or you know, even if not the mainstream, people at least outside of the subculture already. You know, so it's like it's adding that little twist, and it's yeah.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm just saying, man.
Much love, bro.
Great music. So then, when do you start taking rap seriously?
You know, I was making songs on my own on and off, like probably since I was in high school, but I didn't like have an idea of like what I wanted, like an actual project, and like you know, putting stuff out for streaming and whatnot until probably 2017. The Mooncakes EP.
Super recent.
Yeah, so the Mooncakes EP, that was my first actual project. I'm 24.
Okay, so then 2 years ago you were 22.
I think I was 21 when I dropped that, or 22. Yeah, but I was, you know.
So now I have this undying question. Like, what were you doing between like high school and before you dropped the Mooncakes?
I was really just like kind of figuring out my sound too. Like I was making a lot of music that was just kind of all over the place, honestly. Like, and I still kind of am, but I think I'm starting to get a better idea of like what lane I want to be in, or at least, you know, the baseline lane. But you know, I was for a while, you know, I got really into, I don't know if you remember the whole Raider Clan wave, but
Raider
like
Clan.
You remember like Space Ghost Perp, like Young Simi, Chris Travis, like all those dudes.
I'm sleeping.
That was back like 2010, like 2011.
Okay.
So I started making like a lot of like darker sounding stuff, like very like cloud rap, like SoundCloud-ish music. And then at the same time, I was also really into Currency, like Jet Life.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
You know, so I was like, I was also I used to smoke a lot back in around that time too. So I was wasting a lot of time, bro. Honestly, like
Smoking some what, ginseng?
Yeah, smoking ginseng, bro. So like I made a lot of like kind of stuff in that lane too. But honestly, like it was all that music was like very, to me it was kind of, I was branching out trying these different things, but I wasn't it wasn't my own sound. I was kind of riding the waves of these other like artists that I just admired. And then I think it wasn't until probably 2015 or 2016. That's when I heard I got to give credit to Bohan Phoenix. That's who I heard. You know Bohan? Are you heard of him?
I've heard that name before.
So I heard my homie actually Oksami. I don't know if you saw him. He produced Sorry and Flowers.
Okay,
and Summer's Over. So he put me on to Bohan. He showed me a song he had called Foreign, and just the production in that was like just integrating a lot of like Chinese sounds. I forgot the dude who produced it, but the dude's raw as fuck. And then Bohan, on top of it, he was like doing a lot of like half Mandarin, half like English, like a lot of switching back and forth.
That's crazy.
And I was like, man, this is hard as fuck, because it wasn't. I mean, rappers have done it before, like Jin has done it, but he was the way I heard on this song, like it was very modern. It was like very, not even just modern, bro. It was different. Like the beat was kind of like trap based, but it was like definitely very experimental. So I heard that shit, and it kind of like, it low-key just blew my mind, because I was like, damn, I never even thought of like, it started making me reflect a little bit more on like what is unique about my story, my culture,
okay.
and like what experiences I personally have outside of experiences that everybody else might have had as well, which is what I was just kind of like, I was rapping about my experiences before, but there were experiences that were like, shit that's pretty common, like, but when I heard that song, I started thinking more like deeply inward, and especially I heard a tape that he had out before too, where he's talking about like his I forget what song it was, but he's talking about like not talking to his dad for a minute, and then like he has family out in like Chengdu or something, and then I was like, damn, that's like very unique to his story. I got now I'm trying to think of things that are more unique to my story. That's how the concept for, I think, the Mooncakes project came about at first in 2017. And so, put that together, and from then on out, it's been just kind of building, playing with other, ideas and other sounds, but just trying to stay true to, my roots at the same time.
Yeah. So, I'll be honest, like, I didn't get put onto you until Simmering, like, went down, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
like, what was the, I guess, what did you find unique about your story when you were creating the Mooncakes EP?
Well, I think what I had was, to me, I had heard a lot of Vietnamese rappers, and I've heard a lot of Chinese rappers, but I haven't heard any songs specifically talking about the refugee experience. And the song Mooncakes, I was talking kind of about, on the surface level, I'm of course talking about like, I think, an upbringing as like a Chinese American, and talking about I guess cultural upbringing, but at the same time, there's also bars where I'm kind of talking about how during the war, like my family had a house and whatnot, and the government came and like took all the gold and whatnot, and there's like some action drama movie shit, man. Like my grandma, she had to like hide all the gold. She like literally dug holes like in a bunch of random places and hid it underground, and like had to find it because they had to like evacuate the house, right? It got like repossessed and whatnot, which was like there are a lot of like Chinese Vietnamese people are not like super. It's not a very small group. There's a lot of them, especially up in like San Jose area.
Yeah.
Like it's a very common experience, I think. So I think I just wanted to bring some validation, I think, to my my background and to people who are also from that. But at the same time, have people who are from similar backgrounds, who have similar stories, not necessarily specifically from the Vietnam War, but also from any other kinds of immigration, any other kinds of like struggles of just like trying to come into this culture in America and kind of like grow up here. So that was like, that was the influence behind that project.
Well, dude, that's amazing. And I really have to listen back to that EP now. And but I think the way you're describing it really is like the essence of what timeless music is, because for example, right, I listened to Aquemini like last week, right? Like last week, 2 weeks ago, And then I kept on thinking about like what makes this album so classic.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that they were talking about like everything that still goes on today in like African American history. And I'm just like, okay, so really timeless music is just about like stuff that happens like, you know, it's not like something that happens within like a month span or a two month span. It's something that you can listen to like back then and also listen to now. So it's like the fact that you tackle immigration in your Mooncakes EP, it's like there's so many people who have gone through that, and there's so many people who will continue going through that. For me makes. I haven't even listened to it, bro. But then it sounds like something that like you can listen to forever and relate to.
I would hope so, but you know, honestly, it's for sure not on the level of a Quemini. You know, maybe one day.
but you know, maybe like the baby form of it. You know, just a baby, the
like,
fetus.
Maybe like 3% of what a Quemini was. But you know, but yeah, man, that's you know, kind of the rationale behind, I think, when I was coming into that project. And Simmering, of course, I was at, you know, for me, Mooncake is kind of like the past. Simmering is like a snippet into the present, but it wasn't like a full picture. So the stuff I'm trying to work on right now is kind of trying to give a better idea of, you know, I think a holistic approach to some perspectives.
So the next album's gonna be like fully cooked.
Well, hopefully, man. we might see a mixtape or a few before then. You know, just some takeouts and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm down for that, man. You know, since we're on this topic of music, man, like, you know, I follow like a whole bunch of like Asian American like artists. Shout out to like Flannel Alba, for example, or even like Late Lee too.
Oh, Late Lee's
you know,
dope,
that's
man.
my guy, man. I had him like a long ass time ago. You know, that's my guy.
I'm in the studio with him on
there we
Wednesday.
go. That's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know.
That's what this week is for, man. Just a session with a bunch of people and just, you know.
Yeah, you know, just kind of see what comes out of it.
Making cool stuff. Thank you.
Yeah. That's dope, man.
Yeah, man.
And, like, it doesn't seem like you have too many collaborations like that. So, like, I'm happy that you're, like, coming out here and, like, you know, putting yourself in situations where you can work with other dope, like, Asian American artists, too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not even just, I'm not trying to limit, especially, you know, the sound to, you know, it's not like the music's made for Asian Americans and it's, like, specifically for this group. It's just, I think so far with what I've had out, it's just, Asian Americans have happened to be the fans because they're the ones that the stories probably resonate the most with. But, you know, at the same time, I think it's definitely good to work on some music that is kind of outside the box but still true to yourself.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, LA is a great place to definitely collaborate with people and whatnot. I think up there in the Bay, I definitely, you know, there's like a little group of us. Forever New Nation is our collective.
Forever New Nation,
Forever New Nation. So it's me, the homie Jordan Garrett, Anton Doty.
They were on your album, right?
Yeah.
Or Jordan was at least.
Jordan was on the album. You know, we have this raw-ass Korean rapper named Lurid. He's on the album, and he knows more Korean than English when he raps. So, like,
that's crazy.
Bro, he's all over, like, you know, a few guys in our group have a project. So I don't know if you've heard of Sahi. He's a half black, half Chinese dude. And he's actually more fluent in like Cantonese than I am, and like people are always shook when we go to like Chinese restaurants because he's just like very fluent, and then people are like, damn, like, you know, kind of shocked.
This is so crazy,
anyway,
man.
But this dude Lurid, man, he just hops on all our shit and he just raps in all Korean, but he's like raw as fuck. It's crazy.
So dope, bro.
You know, we just trying to unify.
That's what it's about, man. Because I mean, shout out to Bootleg Kev because he gets on me about talking about this so much, but it's like, it's beautiful to see like all of us coming together and like wanting to work with each other because a couple of years ago seeing somebody like yourself or lately or you know even like people from your group like that was unprecedented like it didn't exist like we only had like MC Jin, we had Dumbfounded, we had like Mike Shinoda. Even if we want to keep it in the Bay, the only DJ we had was DJ Qbert and like Nump.
Yeah. Oh man, that was a whole wave over there. I don't know what happened to that whole turntable.
No, exactly. Like it all it was all there, but it's just like, you know what I mean? Like I can only count like maybe 5 people. Maybe even, you know, maybe even like up to 10, but now when I'm looking at like the wide spectrum of things, I'm just like, holy shit, there's so many
feel like
of us.
It's not like I feel like it's always been there, but now the platform is like more receptive to it, you know, and especially with like social media and you know the proof of concept. I think too, some higher ups who have seen the success of like some Hollywood stories and some Asians in media, it's starting to become a ripe, I think, ground for this new representation that hasn't been, I think, seen at this level in the past. So
yeah,
we on the way.
We are on the way, man. And also shout out to 88 Rising for like really
88.
pushing that way, man. Have you gotten to like talk with them? Talk to good old Sean?
I haven't talked to Sean. I've talked to a few people from there. They actually had me at this. Was it last year or 2 years ago? They had this like Tiger beer competition thing up in San Francisco.
Okay.
And so somebody from 88 reached out and was like, you should like come and do this competition thing. But at the time, I think that was like the Mooncakes era. It was very, I think I was still polishing up what I was trying to do, and the sound was still very, I think, limited in range to what I'm able to get to right now. So I think, I mean, I definitely love what they're doing. I have talked to a lot of homies who like have gone out to Head in the Clouds and just talking about how they're bringing all these people together and whatnot. So it's dope. It's a good movement.
Hey man, maybe we'll get Chow Mane for Head in the Clouds 3. I'm just saying, I've been to like the first two, and I'm just like, it was phenomenal going to the first one, especially because I was like legitimately just like in the crowd.
That's fire.
And like just seeing everybody sing the songs to like Brian and Nikki and Joji, I was like, yo, this representation is just like crazy right now.
Yeah, it is. Damn, well, I'll make it out one day.
Oh man, so Chow Mane, the album Simmering is out right now. I gotta ask you, bro, because what I like about it though is especially your song Flowers, because I listened to it. I listened to Flowers by itself the first time, and I was just like, what is he really talking about?
Right.
And then once I went through the entire album and then I got to Flowers, I was like, dude, it's kind of crazy because you talk about how there's so much stuff going on in the world, and we kind of distract ourselves by like the little things.
Right.
Like for instance, if I take it back to She Glowing, like you're talking about how like all she wants is like that blue check mark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I listen to Flowers later on. It's just like, oh shit, well we get distracted by like the blue check marks of the world and just like all of that type of stuff. Like what is it that you really see about society that like makes you want to make a song like Flowers?
Man, I think that song started out as kind of like a feeling, and I think after those first few bars, it just wandered over that. I just started getting to thinking about where my place and where I think people I see and people I know, where we all kind of fit into this bigger picture. Because you go on Twitter, you go on the news, there's all this crazy shit happening around the world all the time, and like it almost makes you feel kind of powerless on what can somebody without millions of dollars to and a bunch of time to like commit to something, what can you really do? And it comes back down to, I think, at the baseline, if people are, I think, aware and in unison on on knowing what they want to get done, they can at least start having this influence on people who may have the resources to do so. And I mean, man, I think Flowers itself came back to me thinking about shit, bro. I forgot what was in the news at the time, but I was thinking a lot about.
Take your time, man.
I was thinking a lot about just literally bees, bro. Bees dying, and I think that's like what kind of had what's it called? Influenced the whole idea of the hook, and I think the eventual second verse and everything in the first place. I think around that time, I think I went to the Oakland Museum of Natural History. I forget the one in downtown, and I think they have this exhibit on bees and like how they're all fucking dying, bro. And I was like, bro, this is important shit, like on God, that's what influenced it. And then like
because bees pollinate everything,
bro. They like feed the world, bro.
Yeah.
And then it's just a culmination, I think, of things inputs that you've seen like over the years, and just like contrasting that to stuff I was talking about on the rest of the album,
I mean, shit, bro. Look, to put it into perspective, we got the forest fires going on, and we got Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A going on. But everyone seems more heavily focused on the Popeyes.
It's not
Chick-fil-A.
like both can't coexist, but it's like I feel like people feel I mean, Popeyes is something that people can go out and kind of get some enjoyment from. The Amazon rainforest, what's an average person without, a bunch of money to do other than spread awareness and, donate a few dollars here and there? Like, it's really, it's something that we have to work on, influencing people with more resources to actually helping out and, making a real impact on being able to change things. And hopefully one day, like, bro, music is a way that it makes people receptive to new ideas and like concepts that are normally they wouldn't want to go out and read about or want to go and do some research into. So at the same time, you don't want to make the music too preachy, right?
Exactly,
like,
man.
Right.
You don't want to logic everybody.
Right.
For the whole time. But
exactly.
I do get what you mean. Like, you kind of have to tackle it in a way in which
some, like snippets, some gems here and there. Try to like influence people like a little bit, or if not influence, at least provide a different perspective than what they already think, and it kind of can at least make a person more worldly, knowledgeable.
Man,
or
amen to that. So Chow Mane, last string of questions that I'm gonna ask you, man.
Yes, sir.
What's your, aside from like Lee's sandwiches, what's your favorite food, bro?
Oh fuck, man.
Or even let's say your favorite food to make.
Oh, favorite food to make? I gotta go with some Chinese eggplant.
Okay.
I love the texture of eggplant. It's fire. And I love it is, man. It's mushy. That's just amazing, bro.
Pause, by the way.
Yeah. What's it called? I really like Viet food, Cambodian food, and Laotian food. And there's a lot of good places up in Oakland.
I've never tried Laotian food.
That's fire,
That's crazy.
bro. You gotta check it out. You get some sticky rice, you get some papaya salad, you get some like some smack sauce with the fish sauce and the lime and the Thai chilies. It's amazing.
You gotta try that. Have you been out of the country?
I've been back to China a few times to visit my mom's family. So last time I went was like 2 years ago, I think. I was there for like a week. But
what was the craziest thing you did there?
Honestly, just like walking around is pretty crazy.
Walking around,
just like just like seeing all the stuff that's going on, man. It's very different, but it kind of feels nostalgic because I used to go there a lot when I was a kid, and it's very interesting how China has like developed so fast. When I was a kid, my mom came up on like a farm on like the outside of Shanghai. There was like rice fields, we had like a little farmhouse, like a dog and everything. But going back now, that land is gone. It's a mall now, and we live in like a little apartment. But that's just how it goes.
Well, shout out to San Francisco and Oakland and Long Beach for getting gentrified too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that shit is happening around the world.
Yeah.
God, what was that question that I was gonna ask you? Oh, dream collaboration.
Dream collab, bro. Ooh. Damn.
Let's discount like the Drake and Cole and Kendrick.
Oh, man. Before a few years ago, it was Mac Miller.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, man. I came up a lot in high school listening to like Faces and Macadelic, like those mixtapes, Kids. But now, man, I would say, oh, you know what? Curo Bonito.
Who?
They're fire, bro. You gotta check them out. Can you
spell that?
Yeah, they're this band out of I think the UK. They had this well their front woman's like this a Japanese British girl, and like their older music is like very upbeat. It's kind of like cutesy Japanese inspired, but their recent stuff has been fire. It's like a lot more like melancholic. It's a lot of there's just a lot of sweeping emotion in it, and I like that vibe a lot, and I think it'd be very cool to work with somebody outside of hip hop.
All right, well, we're gonna speak that into existence, and I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want to butcher it like crazy.
I probably butchered it too.
So Chow Mane, thanks for stopping by, man. Where can everybody find you?
Man, you can find me on Spotify, Apple, Instagram, Chow Mane. You can find me in Oakland right now. I live on the west side. You can find me in San Jose by La Costa.
One question I want to ask you before we dip out: who's your favorite Bay Area rapper?
My favorite Bay Area rapper, bro. Probably All Black.
This fool said All Black. That's crazy. Yeah. All time?
Oh, all time. I thought you meant right now.
Oh
shit. all
But
time.
shit, shout out to All Black, man. That fool super niche.
Is he super niche?
If you could, bro,
I feel like he's pretty big in the Bay.
Bro, he's huge in the Bay. But you know when that West Coast G-Eazy song came out, it was like G-Eazy, YG, Blueface, and All Black.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was fucked up because you had G-Eazy open it up, then you had Blueface rapping behind beat, and then you had All Black rapping too fast for the beat. And it was just like a horrible mashup.
West Coast, bro.
That's it's some West Coast shit.
I feel like none of that. I mean, to me, it's like it's not even like offbeat. Like I feel like it's.
They catch pockets.
The pockets. It just makes it sound raw, you know.
Yeah.
Like but all time, bro.
Shout out All Black though.
All time though, probably E40, man. I came up listening to a lot of 40.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. E40's top 5 all time.
Yeah, man.
For the record.
Bars, for real.
Yeah, 100%, bro.
You hear his new
I
album?
did.
Yeah,
he had a couple on there, and I'm just like, ugh.
He has this dude on his label now, James Too Cold. You heard? He had the song where his flow is fucking insane, man. that shit was crazy.
Shout out Uncle 40, man.
Yeah, shout
like,
out to 40, man.
I think, and I'll speak for myself, my love for hip hop would not be here if it wasn't for E40, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for Chow Mane, man. In some way, shape, or form. This is the lunch table. Bro. Food for thought. I'm Nico, Blitz, Chow Mane. One more time, shout out to my homegirl Connie Chan, and we are out, everybody.
Shout out to Connie. Thank you, Connie.
Yay!